Alright, so what's going on, guys? So in today's video we have a bit of a change of scenery in the garage. Something I've been wanting to start on for a long time, and that's that we finally have the Integra in the garage. And I've already got it up on jack stands, as you guys can see, because I'm anxious to get started. Haven't done a whole lot since it's been actually next to my house under the car cover for the last like 6 months. So of course I already did like a preliminary overview. Of course, again, this is Trey's old Integra, where he took the engine and transmission out of it, and he's actually putting that in one of his cars. And of course, you know, that worked out fine for me because I decided I wanted to K-swap a Honda in the first place. And this actually really worked out really well for me. When he said he was getting rid of it, I asked him what he wanted to do with it. I told him I was interested, you know, and he actually even delivered this thing over to me. Again, you can't get a better deal than that. Car's in pretty good shape, minus a few things. Just real quick overview, of course, there's a dent here. Paint's kind of faded here. A tree actually fell on it and damaged the top. Of course, you saw we replaced this hatch from one I got from the junkyard. They happen to be the same color, and it is wingless, whereas the one that was on here was a black one that had a wing delete that had started to rust. It's in pretty good shape. It's not perfect. I am thinking about repainting this car anyway. Probably keep it the same color, but at least the bottom of this is all green and it'll match. I won't have to do the jam and stuff like that. It does have a little rust spot here, which seems to be pretty common on these cars. The interior is in pretty good shape. I do need to wipe it down. I guess some water got into it, so now I have some spots. Door cards are in pretty good shape. We kind of already talked about it. Like I said, we got the K24. This is out of a 04 TSX. Already assembled, and that's ready to go. I just got to put the transmission back together, and then we'll slap this thing back in here. But that's actually going to be a long way away because there are a few things I want to do to this car beforehand. So first, of course, I got to figure out what all I need to get rid of, or I can get rid of out of here. I do plan on keeping this as a street car, so I still want to keep my power steering and a few other creature comforts like that. So I need to really look into it and see what I can remove, or maybe even tuck away, because this is a complete rat's nest. I do want to have a good looking engine bay. Of course, like I said, this thing will be all-wheel drive, and that's really going to be my goal for most of the summer, is to get this thing to be NA with all-wheel drive, and then I'll put a turbo on it probably as we get closer to the wintertime. Because of course doing this stuff is expensive, and I don't plan on going cheap with this. The reason my build total has added up as much as it has is because I'm trying to go with quality parts the first time. Now, of course, being that I want to get this up and running relatively quickly, there will be a few things, a few parts that I'll go with as placeholders, but those won't really be critical parts. They'll just be something like my intake manifold just to get me started. So one of the things I do need to do is go to my parts wall here and get a few things off of it, because we're going to go ahead and install those today. You guys have seen that I have already taken the wheels off, and that is for a good reason. So let me go ahead and get the parts out, show you guys what we're going to start doing today. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and install these guys here. So what I have here are some CRV knuckles and some Skunk2 upper control arms. So now the first thing you may ask is, hey Jay, why are you using CRV knuckles? They're 5-lug. You don't need to do a 5-lug conversion. The 4-lug is better, especially in the Honda community, and blah, blah, blah. So of course, if you're in the Honda scene, then you know that most of those cars are 4-lug. So if you're looking to buy some used wheels and tires, something like that, it's really smarter to stay 4-lug. There's a bunch of reasons as to why 4-lug is better, and of course, most of them I agree with. But for me, it was pretty simple. So I went with the 5-lug because A, it's the cheapest way to get the 36mm axle. So the CRV in the front uses, like I said, a 36mm axle, whereas most of the other cars use a 32mm. Now, of course, you can buy hub adapters and so on and so forth, but those kind of hike up your price. Whereas you can immediately tell these parts came from the junkyard, sourced from a lower mileage CRV. I do have the calipers as well. The calipers are actually a little bit bigger than your factory Integra stuff. So that was really my main reason for doing that. If you want 36mm axles, which if you can get a thicker axle, then why not? You know, it's really up to you. Of course, these Skunk2, I bought these. They were used, but they're in pretty good shape. They actually came in the original box. That is just so we'll be able to adjust the camber as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get those installed. That way I can get a couple more pieces off of my wall here. So let's get started. All right, guys. So I did want to mention one more thing. As I was getting set up, I remembered something. So if you remember in my initial Integra introduction video, I mentioned that Trey took a bunch of stuff off here. So there's going to be some sketchy stuff that you're going to notice. So keep that in mind. I'll point it out as I go. But as I said, most of the good parts from this car he took to use on another car, and he did what he had to do to get it so that it was a roller and able to get over here. So with that said, now we can get started. All right, so as we get started, of course, you can see you'll need to pull your wheel and tire off. You see what we really had to work with. So he's actually smart enough to put a bottle to catch any remaining brake fluid to drip out. But then we can also see we have like a coilover sleeve sort of set up here. If we look at it really closely, see the bottom of that sleeve is actually busted. I'm not, if you guys will really be able to make that out. But that's where the aluminum has just started to tear away. Another reason why you don't go with these cheapo coilovers. You're not really sure what brand of camber kit that is. But both of those things will be coming off because we're actually going to be replacing this whole thing. Yeah, so overall, it's a pretty quick process. All right, so that first nut was a perfect example of what I was talking about. That nut was barely even on. So guys, if we just look real quick, we can see that they're pretty much exactly the same, minus the fact that, of course, this is 5-lug and this inner hole is bigger. You can see the Integra normally uses a 32mm axle, whereas this uses a 36. The caliper is going to be a little bit bigger. I will show you guys that here in a second. But other than that, it's the exact same shape, exact same piece. It is as simple as just dropping this back in here and putting the nut back on here. Now, of course, I'm going to replace these camber arms, and for this we're actually going to need to go up top. Like, so up top is just remove this nut that's right here, as well as the one that is back there. It fell to the floor. I don't see any sort of brand name on here, so who knows what these are. All right, so one of the reasons I purchased this particular set is because the seller was including, of course, the camber arms, which are in good shape. He also included new ball joints. So these are brand new Skunk2 ball joints to replace these, and then the hardware that went with it. So he really covered everything. Price was great. So I'm really happy with the deal I got. So I'm going to go ahead and swap in these new ball joints and get these installed. All right, real quick, guys, so just so you can kind of get an idea of the CRV stuff versus the Integra stuff. So, of course, I have the old rotor from the Integra, and then I have just a standard rotor for the CRV. So if we look, we can see the CRV is a little bit bigger all the way around. You see that silver ring that goes around. So the bigger rotor should help with heat dissipation. And of course, the same thing on the caliper. So the caliper is not as noticeable, but the CRV caliper, which is this guy here, is slightly bigger than the Integra one. And the piston on the inside of it, these are still single piston calipers. The piston is actually a little bit bigger. So if you're looking for a cheap, big air brake kit, this may be a way to go. Now, you'll probably get the same results just by upgrading your rotors and pads on your stock setups. And now, as I mentioned earlier, the only reason this makes sense is because I'm going to K-swap and I'm looking to get those 36mm axles. Otherwise, if you're looking to upgrade your brakes, a good set of rotors and pads will do just fine because these cars are extremely light. So they don't need a whole lot of help in the braking department. All right, guys, so just like that, about 30-45 minutes later, we're done. We have swapped on the CRV spindles, the calipers, and the new Skunk2 camber kit. Also went ahead and put on these wheels that I picked up. I believe these are wheels from a Prelude. I actually got them off Facebook Marketplace. It just said Honda wheels. Like, I actually got them as a set of 6 for $100. So of course, you can't beat that. 6 wheels for $100. Now the tires on them are shot for the most part. I think out of the 6, I have 2 good tires. But that won't matter anyway because I will be replacing those. These were just something that would allow the car to continue to be a roller. I like the way they look. So I was looking at some Accord wheels, something that was a 16-inch, because that's the size wheel I plan on going with, is a 16. And like I said, the whole project really went by really quickly. Didn't have any hiccups. And of course, that has a lot to do with the fact that all of the bolts and stuff were already loose anyway. So suspension can be one of those things that when you're working on, it can either be really easy or a pain in the ass. It really just depends because they see so much abuse, so much vibration, so much dirt and grime and rust So it is a quick upgrade, guys. If you're doing like a K swap and you want to get a slightly bigger brake setup, convert to 5-lug and get the 36mm axles, I think this is definitely the way to go. You could get some 36mm hubs if you wanted to stay 4-lug, but that whole setup is going to cost you like $400+ as I mentioned earlier. So like I said, this whole setup cost me about $300. You could even get it for less if you're lucky enough to get some good condition rotors at the junkyard. I think at my yard, rotors cost like $15 or so. So if you get lucky enough to pull the entire first gen CRV setup, you could have this setup on your car and done for say $100 or so. So when I look at it that way, of course I think it's worth it. Save the money, just go ahead and convert to 5-lug. As I mentioned, this car and the Galant will both share the same wheel pattern, so the wheels will be interchangeable, and that's an added benefit. But anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching my video. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys later.